Hello again. Well, last time in my videos I was talking about two direct actions which I'd been involved in, one at Eon's head offices and one at Stansted, the latter of which resulted in me being arrested. But it seems like it's time to do another one. I was up in court. Was found guilty of aggravated trespass, and like everyone, like more or less everyone else, I think everyone else without previous, I got 50 hours community service. But I think I'll probably talk about that more in another video. In this one I'll just read out the statement I prepared, because I thought it might be of interest to some of you. It kind of explains why I thought direct action was a legitimate and reasonable thing to do given the circumstances. Okay. On December the 8th, 2008, I committed an act of aggravated trespass. I understood that I would be arrested for my actions and that others would be inconvenienced. I have never been to court before and desire less disruption to people's lives from whatever cause. Clearly then, delaying the reopening of an airport is not option number one for a pragmatist pushing for climate change mitigation. For me personally, it's taken a long time and many other options before deciding to take part in civil disobedience with a criminal record guaranteed. I started learning about climate change while still at school, learned most of my scientific background on the topic while studying biomolecular sciences at St Andrews, and became increasingly active and involved in climate change campaigns after university. For me, option number one was writing to my MP and ministers. Option number two was being involved in a group that organised talks and an annual climate march. Option number three was volunteering for this organisation full-time for 6 months, putting on conferences, creating materials and helping with networking. Political change through campaigning on climate change has been my preferred option for some time. My decision to change tactics was not taken lightly. The fourth assessment report of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was a bleak assessment of our future, if business as usual is our chosen emissions course. Since then, the science has only become starker. The North Polar ice cap is disappearing far faster than expected, and vast quantities of methane frozen in the Arctic are starting to be released. A scenario we were told at university was worst case and highly speculative. Radical emissions reductions are needed now, not by 2050, but whatever emissions reductions targets you believe in, we will not get there by allowing unabated coal plants, expansion of airports and new roads, while cutting subsidies for public transport. However, the real story isn't an unpopular government position, but how that position was arrived at, and how the government is endangering its own legitimacy. Firstly, BAA were found to be intimately involved with the government's aviation policy, including drafting the Heathrow consultation document. Secondly, there is an overwhelming opposition locally to the expansion of both Heathrow and Stansted. Central government is running roughshod over the interests of local people. The government claim their policies are for the good of the economy. The Sustainable Development Commission argues that the evidence is highly contested and not a sound basis for aviation policy. Finally, governments are responsible for the security of society at large. Climate change will cause mass migration due to flooding of populous coastal areas, failing croplands and changing weather patterns. Maintaining international stability will become an increasingly difficult task. Our leaders' malfeasance will go down in history. Personally, I would feel my actions at Stansted were justified. Because of the serious danger of climate change. Let me say that I do not believe that it was necessary to win a popularity competition in order to have successful action. Our actions were effective in at least two ways. Firstly, we provided a national platform for anti-aviation groups and climate change campaigners. We may be condemned as taking protests too far, but these groups will have a space in which to make their persuasive arguments and to highlight the government's failure in relation to climate change and local democracy. Secondly, we will bring the kind of energy to the debate on climate change policy that is so badly needed. The country is awash with cynicism for the simple reason that our government has used high rhetoric on climate change for years and done very little. As the suffragettes would say, deeds not words. This kind of dissonance can only lead to one result: apathy. People know that if the government was serious about climate change, it would be acting seriously. The inconsistency shown by government indicates very clearly that businesses usually is fine. Through our actions, I would hope that some would see that the government is gutless on climate change, not simply dishonest about its importance. In the end, I have to apologise to the people whose flights were delayed, to those living at the sharp end of climate change right now, and to those yet to be born. I apologise for not having the skill to influence the government without direct action, and I apologise to those who will die as a result of climate change for not being able to do more.